You don't love them, you're just terrified of what happens if you leave. You rehearse the breakup conversation in your head at 2 in the morning. You've mapped out every word, every possible reaction, every escape route. But when morning comes, you roll over, look at them sleeping, and the script dissolves. You say good morning instead. You've been saying good morning for months, maybe years, when what you really mean is I don't know how to say goodbye. This isn't love speaking. This is loss aversion, a cognitive bias where the pain of losing something, anything, even something that doesn't serve you, outweighs the potential gain of freedom. Let me tell you about someone I knew. She stayed for 3 years past the expiration date. She could pinpoint the exact moment she stopped being in love, a Tuesday afternoon when he interrupted her mid-sentence for the 100th time, and she felt nothing. Not anger, not hurt, nothing, but she stayed. She told herself it was because they had a lease together, because her parents loved him, because starting over at 32 felt like admitting failure. Those weren't reasons, they were alibis. You know the difference between missing someone and missing not being alone. When you imagine them gone, what do you actually mourn? Is it their laugh, their specific presence, the irreplaceable shape of who they are? Or is it the terror of an empty apartment, the shame of explaining to friends, the vertigo of making every single decision without a witness? Be honest. When you picture your life without them, the fear isn't about losing them. It's about facing yourself with no buffer, no distraction, no one else to blame for your unhappiness. That's not love, that's emotional outsourcing. There's a term in psychology called the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested 3 years, 5 years, a decade. You've met their family, merged your friend groups, accumulated inside jokes, and shared furniture. Your brain treats this investment like currency, like it means something about the future when it only describes the past. Every additional day you stay because of the time already spent is another deposit into an account that will never pay dividends. You're not building towards something. You're preventing loss, and there's a universe of difference between those two things. You've become fluent in the language of justification. They're not that bad, it could be worse. At least they don't do X, Y, or Z. You measure your relationship not by what it gives you, but by what it doesn't take. This is called comparative suffering, and it's a trap. You're grading your happiness on a curve where the benchmark is misery. When your best defense of staying is that the alternative might be worse, you're not making a choice. You're surrendering to probability. Let's talk about what happens in your nervous system when you consider leaving. Your heart rate spikes. Your palms sweat. You feel a tightness in your chest that mimics a heart attack. This is your amygdala, your brain's fear center, treating the unknown exactly like it treats a physical threat. To your ancient wiring, being alone registers as being expelled from the tribe, which in evolutionary terms meant death. But you're not going to die. You're going to be uncomfortable. And you've become so skilled at avoiding discomfort that you've mistaken comfort for love. You're performing love. You remember their coffee order, you laugh at their stories, you show up to their work events, but performance is not presence. There's a psychological concept called alexithymia, the inability to identify and describe emotions. You've been going through the motions for so long that you've lost access to your actual feelings. You can't tell the difference anymore between genuine affection and muscle memory. Between wanting to be with them and wanting to avoid the nuclear fallout of not being with them. You're not in a relationship. You're in a hostage negotiation with yourself. She told me the moment she knew. They were at a friend's wedding and the officiant asked the couple to share what they loved most about each other. She looked at her partner and realized if someone asked her that question, she'd have to reach back years for an answer. Not months, years. She was living in the museum of their relationship, giving tour of exhibits that no longer existed. The gift shop was still open, but the galleries were empty. She was a docent for a love that had been moved to storage, and she was still selling tickets. You've calculated the social cost of leaving. Who keeps which friends? How to explain it to your family who already bought gifts for the wedding they keep asking about. The pity you'll see in people's eyes when they find out you're single again. You're doing actuarial work on your own life, tallying up the price of honesty, and it feels too expensive. But here's what you're not calculating: the cost of staying, the slow erosion of your self-trust, the years you'll never get back. The version of yourself you're killing by degrees to avoid a difficult conversation. The moment you admit it's fear, not love, the entire architecture of your justifications collapses. There's a type of abuse that doesn't leave bruises. It's called ambient abuse, the constant low-level stress of being with someone who doesn't hit you, doesn't scream, but slowly convinces you that your instincts are wrong, that your unhappiness is unreasonable, that you're asking for too much. You're not being beaten, you're being erased. And because there's no dramatic inciting incident, no clear villain, you can't justify leaving. You feel trapped by the absence of a good enough reason when your misery should be reason enough. You don't need permission, you need courage. Here's the thing they don't tell you about fear-based attachment: it creates its own evidence. You stay because you're afraid to be alone, which means you never learn that you can survive alone, which means the fear grows, which means you stay. It's a closed loop, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Every day you remain is another data point your brain catalogs as proof that leaving is impossible. You're not gathering evidence, you're manufacturing it. You've probably convinced yourself that you're staying for them, that leaving would destroy them, that they need you. This is called codependency masquerading as compassion. You're not protecting them. You're using their potential fragility as a shield against your own fear. And beneath that, there's an even more uncomfortable truth. You need them to need you because being needed feels like being loved. It's not. Being needed is a job. Being loved is a choice. And you're working overtime in a position you didn't apply for, covering shifts that aren't yours, terrified to quit. She finally left on a random Thursday. No dramatic fight, no infidelity, no inciting incident, just the accumulated weight of 1,000 small dishonest mornings finally exceeding her capacity to carry them. She said the first week was exactly as terrifying as she'd imagined. The second week was worse, but the third week something shifted. She woke up and realized she'd stopped performing, stopped calculating, stopped bracing. The fear was still there, but it wasn't in the driver's seat anymore. For the first time in 3 years, she recognized herself. That's when she understood she hadn't lost a relationship. The transformation doesn't happen in the leaving. It happens in the moment you stop lying to yourself about why you're staying. When you can look at your reflection and name it, I am afraid, I am choosing fear over truth, I am trading years of my life for the illusion of security. That admission cracks something open. It doesn't make leaving easier, it makes staying impossible. Because once you've named the mechanism, you can't unsee it. Every morning you wake up next to them becomes a conscious choice to prioritize fear. And consciousness is the enemy of comfortable self-deception. You're going to make a list of reasons to stay. You've probably already made it. You've memorized it. You recite it like a prayer when the truth gets too loud. Read it again, but this time ask yourself, which of these is about love and which is about fear, which is about wanting them and which is about avoiding discomfort. If you removed every reason that starts with at least or what if or but who, what's left? If the answer is nothing or something so small it fits in a thimble, you already know what you need to do. The loneliness you're avoiding by staying is already here. You're lonely next to them. You're lonely in the same bed, in the same room, in the middle of conversations that stopped meaning anything months ago. At least if you leave, your loneliness will be honest. It will have a name and a shape and a potential endpoint. The loneliness you're living in now is gaslighting you, pretending to be connection, showing up in the costume of companionship. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of admitting you already are. If I could go back and tell her one thing, it would be this: the fear doesn't go away after you leave. It just stops running your life. You learn to feel it without obeying it. You discover that surviving the thing you were most afraid of gives you a different kind of power, not the power to never be afraid again, but the power to act despite the fear. She tells me now that she doesn't regret the relationship. She regrets every single day she stayed after she knew. Those days don't come back. So here's your uncomfortable truth. You already know if you're staying out of fear. You knew before you clicked this video. The question isn't whether you're afraid, it's whether you're going to let fear write the rest of your story. Every day you wake up is a sentence you're adding to that story. You can keep writing the same chapter over and over, or you can turn the page. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. It will also be the first honest thing you've done in years. The fear is real. Stop lying to yourself. You already know the truth. If this video resonated with you, hit subscribe. Uncomfortable Truths releases new videos every day on personal finance, psychology, mindset, and productivity, and more. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. The truth is uncomfortable, but it's always worth it.